Welcome to Execbook Bites podcast by Ankit Maheshwari. Today, we're exploring how to read a book by Mortimer J. Adler and Charles Van Doren, a powerful guide on how to get the most out of every book you pick up. Ready to take your reading to the next level? Let's dive in and uncover the secrets to becoming an expert reader. How to Read a Book by Mortimer J. Adler and Charles Van Doren. Synopsis: How to Read a Book by Mortimer J. Adler and Charles Van Doren is a comprehensive guide on improving reading skills for deeper understanding and lifelong learning. It categorizes reading into 4 levels: elementary, inspectional, analytical, and syntopical, each requiring increased skill and effort. The book begins by addressing fundamental reading abilities and progresses to analyze complex texts across various fields. It provides strategies for questioning the text, identifying key concepts, and understanding the author's intentions. The authors stress the importance of active reading, emphasizing the roles of questioning and critical thinking. They offer techniques like systematic skimming for effective inspectional reading. The book highlights the significance of syntopical reading, which involves comparing multiple works to draw broader insights. Readers can practice these techniques through examples and exercises for improved comprehension and knowledge retention. The authors also discuss the different approaches needed for reading fiction versus nonfiction. Ultimately, the book serves as a toolbox for readers eager to engage more deeply with the written word and enhance their intellectual acumen. Top 20 Insights. Active reading. Engaging with the text actively is crucial for understanding. It involves questioning and interacting with the material rather than just passively consuming it. 4 reading levels. Reading is divided into elementary, inspectional, analytical, and syntopical levels. Each level requires different skills and offers deeper comprehension. Elementary reading. This is the basic level where the reader understands the meaning of words and sentences. It involves decoding and basic comprehension skills. Inspectional reading. This level involves skimming to grasp the book's main idea and structure. It's about assessing whether a book deserves a deeper read. Analytical reading. This is a deeper form of reading, where the reader seeks a full understanding of the material. It involves identifying themes, concepts, and arguments systematically. Syntopical reading. This involves reading multiple books on the same subject to compare perspectives. It requires the reader to pose a question and use several texts to answer it. Questioning the text. Readers should ask questions like, what is the book about, and what is being said in detail? This helps in uncovering the author's intent and the book's structure. Author's intent. Understanding what the author is trying to convey is vital. It helps readers distinguish between understanding a text and merely recalling information. Identifying key concepts. Recognizing central concepts and ideas is essential for thorough understanding. It requires the reader to distill the text's main arguments and ideas. Importance of pre-reading. Before delving into detailed reading, it's helpful to gain a preliminary understanding of the book. Pre-reading involves skimming and exploring the table of contents and introduction. Reading for different purposes. The approach to reading will change based on whether the goal is entertainment, information, or understanding. Identifying this purpose helps in choosing the right reading strategy. Critical thinking. Analyzing and evaluating what is read is necessary for meaningful comprehension. It involves questioning the logic and validity of the arguments presented. Fiction versus nonfiction. Different techniques are required for reading fiction compared to nonfiction. For fiction, emphasis is on the narrative and characters, while nonfiction focuses on concepts and arguments. Note-taking strategies. Taking notes while reading helps in retaining information and deepening understanding. It allows readers to track important points and their insights. Recognizing structure. Identifying and understanding the structure of a book's comprehension. Recognizing the organization helps in predicting the flow of information and arguments. Reading speed and efficiency. Speed and efficiency vary throughout the reading process. Readers might skim some sections while spending more time on complex passages. Understanding terminology. Grasping specific terminologies and their meaning helps in understanding complex texts. This often involves looking up words and concepts unfamiliar to the reader. Seeking clarity. Readers should not shy away from seeking clarification when confused. Rereading sections or consulting additional resources may be necessary for full understanding. Evaluating arguments. Readers must assess the strength and validity of arguments in the text. This involves logical analysis to discern fact from opinion and bias. Intellectual growth. The ultimate aim of reading is to expand one's mind and knowledge. Continuous learning and application of effective reading strategies lead to intellectual enrichment. Part 1. The Dimensions of Reading. Chapter 1. The Activity and Art of Reading. This chapter introduces reading as an active and skillful art that involves a conversation between the reader and the author. The authors describe how reading is a complex activity requiring active engagement to truly understand the text. They emphasize that reading is not a passive activity, but one that requires effort and attention. The chapter sets the stage for developing deeper reading skills by illustrating the importance of the reader's role. The key message is to approach reading as an active participant in a dialogue with the author. Chapter 2. The Levels of Reading. This chapter explains the 4 levels of reading: elementary, inspectional, analytical, and syntopical. Each level is defined by the complexity of understanding it requires and the skills needed. The authors describe how these levels build upon one another, leading to deeper comprehension. They stress the importance of progress through these levels to improve reading proficiency. The key message is that reading can be deepened and enriched by progressing through various levels of understanding. Chapter 3. The First Level of Reading. Elementary Reading. Elementary reading refers to the basic skill of comprehending words and sentences. It involves decoding language and understanding its most direct meanings. This chapter highlights that everyone starts at this level but needs advancement for profound understanding. Although basic, it forms the foundation upon which more complex reading skills are built. The key message is that elementary reading is the essential building block for developing advanced reading skills. Visit Execbook to explore our full library of book summaries and exclusive content. Execbook Bites, your shortcut to smarter reading. Chapter 4. The Second Level of Reading. Inspectional Reading. Inspectional reading involves skimming and pre-reading to grasp a book's main idea and structure quickly. The authors introduce techniques like reading the table of contents and summaries to discern a book's worth. This level allows readers to determine whether a book merits a deeper read. It also includes systematic skimming, which guides the reader through the book's key parts. The key message is that inspectional reading helps decide the investment of time and effort in understanding a book deeply. Part 2. The Third Level of Reading. Analytical Reading. Chapter 5. The Third Level of Reading. Analytical Reading. The chapter describes analytical reading as the effort to understand a book deeply, involving full engagement with its concepts and arguments. The authors discuss how this level involves breaking down the book's structure to understand its nature thoroughly. They stress identifying important themes, terms, and propositions. Readers are encouraged to ascertain the author's message and evaluate it critically. The key message is that analytical reading is a systematic approach to achieving deep comprehension and insight into a text. Chapter 6. Analytical Reading 2. This chapter continues to explore analytical reading, focusing on interpreting and critically evaluating what the book conveys. The readers are taught to ask pertinent questions to shape their understanding and critically engage with the material. This analysis involves discerning the truthfulness and coherence of the arguments presented. The aim is for readers to form their own educated opinions on the content. The key message is that thorough analysis and evaluation lead to a more profound and truthful understanding of a book. Chapter 7. Analytical Reading 3. Further delving into analytical reading, this chapter emphasizes how readers should address disagreements with the author. The authors provide guidelines for constructive criticism, evaluating whether an author is uninformed, misinformed, or illogical. Readers learn to articulate their own opinions respectfully and thoughtfully while understanding differing viewpoints. This process enables readers to intellectually grow from the interaction. The key message is that respectful critique and open-mindedness are vital for intellectual advancement and personal growth. Part 3. Approaches to different kinds of reading matter. Chapter 8. The fourth level of reading, syntopical reading. Syntopical reading is introduced as the highest level, where readers synthesize perspectives from multiple works on the same subject. This process involves comparing and contrasting different viewpoints to form a holistic understanding. Readers create a framework of inquiry to address specific questions through multiple texts. This approach requires discerning connections between ideas across different authors. The key message is that syntopical reading expands understanding by integrating diverse perspectives to reading different kinds of literature. This chapter outlines the different approaches required for reading various genres, such as fiction, nonfiction, poetry, and scientific text. Each genre requires unique tactics and focuses, whether empathizing with characters or interpreting scientific methodologies. Understanding these differences allows readers to appreciate the underlying messages and intent effectively. The authors stress adapting reading strategies to the type and purpose of the text for better comprehension. The key message is that tailoring reading strategies to the nature of the material enriches understanding and appreciation. Chapter 10. How to read practical books. The authors describe practical books as ones that offer advice or instructions, often requiring an application of concepts to real-world situations. They emphasize understanding the book's purpose and the practical problems it seeks to solve. Readers are encouraged to critically evaluate the practicality and applicability of the advice given. This reading involves assessing the solution's relevancy to their circumstances or challenges. The key message is to read practical books with a mind for application, ensuring solutions align with personal needs and contexts. Chapter 11. How to read imaginative literature. In reading imaginative literature, the focus is on immersion into the world created by the author, understanding themes, and empathizing with characters. The authors suggest approaching these works with an openness to emotional and aesthetic experiences and the underlying meanings they convey. Readers should appreciate storytelling techniques and how they contribute to the narrative. The empathy and understanding gained from this reading broaden perspectives on human experiences. The key message is to engage emotionally and intellectually with imaginative literature to derive deeper insights into human nature and culture. Chapter 12. How to read science and mathematics. The authors explain that reading scientific and mathematical texts requires attention to arguments, evidence, and methodology. It's important to grasp the logical structure and the implications of the theories and findings discussed. Readers should focus on understanding principles, their applications, and potential limitations critically. Comprehending these texts often involves integrating knowledge from different scientific areas. The key message is that logical reasoning and methodical thinking are essential to understanding the rigorous nature of scientific and mathematical texts. Chapter 13. How to read philosophy and social science. Reading philosophy and social sciences involves deeply engaging with ideas and arguments about human behavior, society, and the nature of knowledge. Readers should focus on grasping the questions posed, the reasoning for conclusions, and the implications of these conclusions. Critical confrontation with different philosophical arguments is encouraged to develop a well-rounded understanding. The authors stress openness to multiple perspectives and the willingness to challenge one's preconceptions. The key message is that philosophy and social science reading requires critical thinking and an openness to diverse viewpoints for meaningful understanding. Part 4. The Ultimate Goals of Reading. Chapter 14. Reading and the Growth of the Mind. This chapter explains that the ultimate goal of reading is intellectual growth and the expansion of one's understanding. The act of reading deeply and critically enhances a person's thinking and intellectual capacity. By engaging with challenging ideas and perspectives, readers broaden their worldview and knowledge base. This growth leads to a more informed, enriched, and autonomous intellect. The key message is that reading is a lifelong journey of learning and self-improvement, significantly contributing to mental and intellectual. The message from Mortimer J. Adler and Charles Van Doren in How to Read a Book is a call to embrace reading as a dynamic, intellectual pursuit rather than a passive activity. They encourage readers to view books as conversation partners and to engage actively with the material. The authors impart techniques and strategies to enhance comprehension, critical thinking, and the ability to synthesize information from various sources. Their emphasis on different reading levels highlights how increasing one's reading skills can lead to deeper understanding and personal growth. Ultimately, the authors promote reading as a means to cultivate one's mind, contribute to lifelong learning, and achieve greater intellectual autonomy and insight. Conclusion of How to Read a Book by Mortimer J. Adler and Charles Van Doren. The conclusion of How to Read a Book emphasizes the transformative power of reading when approached with rigor and active participation. The authors reiterate that reading is not merely about decoding text, but involves engaging with ideas, questioning authors, and critically analyzing content. By mastering the 4 levels of reading, elementary, inspectional, analytical, and syntopical, readers can enhance their comprehension and derive greater value from any material. They remind readers that this approach to reading extends beyond academic or professional goals, enriching the individual's intellectual and personal growth. The book champions the enduring importance of literature as a means of participating in the marketplace of ideas, enabling one to engage with diverse perspectives and develop informed opinions. Furthermore, the authors highlight that reading is integral to continuing education and intellectual independence. Practicing the strategies outlined in the book equips readers with the tools necessary to tackle complex texts across various subjects. By encouraging readers to adapt their reading strategies to different types of content, the authors ensure that readers are prepared to gain meaningful insights regardless of the genre. The book concludes with an encouragement to view reading as a lifelong journey that cultivates curiosity, broadens perspectives, and fosters an appreciation for the wealth of knowledge available through books. Ultimately, Adler and Van Doren aim to inspire readers to commit to deepening their reading practices and, consequently, their understanding of the world. Thank you for listening. Subscribe to Execbook for more book podcasts.